Hello, you join me today at the brilliant Forest Lane Fishery, where I'm going to be fishing a match on the home of the Fish North final, the Arena Lake. Now today's match is a pairs match, and it's a pairs match with a little bit of a difference. Your partner is sat next to you, so you're both on next pegs to each other. You can keep sort of in touch, know exactly what's going on. And the second thing with it is one of you is going to be fishing the pole, the other one's going to fish the feeder. So my partner for the day, Stewie, who's next to me, is going to fish the pole while I'm concentrating on feeder fishing. Now this lake is full of small carp from sort of 8 ounce to a pound, which means hopefully lots of bites, lots of action, lots of casting. And I'm just going to quickly talk you through my tackle, which sort of reflects the fact that I'm going to be casting a lot, I'm going to be catching small fish, and it's just sort of a nice setup for this type of situation, what I'm going to be doing today. So first of all, obviously with it being feeder only, there's not loads of tackle to set up. I've got two identical setups. Same rod, same reel, same choice of feeders. So first of all, the rod, that's an Aero X7 finesse feeder in 9 foot. Now that's fitted with the softest top section, which is 1/4 of an ounce, and I've got that in for two reasons. A little bit of the fishing I'm going to do today is going to be on a slope, so that soft tip helps cushion any liners and stops my feeder moving. It also means I can tighten up to my feeder a little bit. These small fish, you often get a lot of drop back bites, and you find you need to tighten up to your feeder a little bit more than you would with bigger fish. So that soft tip just means I can tighten up to it without the tip pulling my feeder back down the slope. Next thing, 4000 Vanford reel. That's just the reel I use for all of my fishing, to be honest. And it's got a lovely smooth drag. I can wind the fish back with that drag just slightly clicking away, so I'm not going to be pulling out of any fish. On the reel, exactly the same main line I use for all my winter carp fishing. That's 022 Shimano Eggs Age. Now moving down to the business end, I've gone for the Preston ICM system. A little stem so I can change my feeders, so I've got a few choices of feeders. But the one that I think is going to be best, and the one that I'm going to be starting on, is a little cage feeder. But what I've done is adapted it slightly. If you can see there, I've cut it down a bit, so I've only just got this back bar left, and then I've got a couple of little bits here still. And what that means is I can fit a lot less bait in it. Now them cage feeders are very small to start with, but the way I'm looking at it is the weather's very cold. I'm going to be casting a lot because I'm fishing to catch a lot of fish, and if I was fishing a pole today, I wouldn't feed as much bait as I can fit in that full feeder. So I've cut it down to sort of replicate the amount I'd probably feed on the pole and allow me to keep casting without putting loads and loads of bait in my peg. The other thing with the way that this feed is cut is this back bit, I can just squeeze a few pellets in there, nice and light, and fish it like cage feeder style while casting. My bait will come out as the feeder falls, as it hits the water. I can fish a slightly longer hook length. Now, they're only small fish, I don't want to fish something too long, but I can fish sort of 8 or 10 inch hook length, and it just gives that second or two of your bait falling, which allows you to get a really quick bite. Now, the other thing I can do, because of the way the feed is cut, is put a smaller hook length on, 3 or 4 inches, and I can use a slightly harder mix on my feeder, so I can push that in, thumb it in onto the full feeder, cover the full feeder, and tuck my hook bait on top of it. So I've got that method or pellet feeder style. So it just gives me a couple of ways to vary my presentation. Also on this stem, I can put a bigger feeder on if I do feed and I need more bait, or I could change to a maggot feeder as well, which just gives me another option. So a nice simple setup. Now, my reason for having a second rod set up is I want to fish a couple of lines. I was really lucky. I seen this lake totally empty when it was dug a few years ago, and across to the island there's a very wide, very flat shelf, and I would say it's probably 5 foot wide, and it's around 2.5 foot deep, maybe a little bit shallower. That's an obvious place to target. Fish are naturally going to push away from the bankside disturbance with every peg being in. So I'm going to set one rod up to fish to my clip over on that flat shelf. Now the only thing is, with the weather really cold, we've had some frost, air temperature today is 3 or 4 degrees, so it is very cold. That water might be just too shallow. Coming away from that flat shelf, there's a slope then, which gradually slopes down to the middle of the lake, where it's about probably 6.5 foot deep. So I've set a second rod up. Now, I don't want to fish that in the deepest water, because that is where my partner's going to be fishing a pole, and I don't really want to share them fish, but I want to be in deeper water than what's on the shelf. So I've clipped that rod up to fish on the slope. So when I cast on top of the shelf, I've got no count at all with my bomb. If I cast it down the middle, I get a 3 count. So I've gone sort of halfway between that, where I get sort of a 1 to a 2 count, meaning I'm roughly halfway up that slope, which is probably 16 or 17 metres. Now again, that's the reason for that really light tip like I spoke about. When I'm fishing on that slope, I want to be able to tighten up to my feeder and it not move. So that's the 2 lines I'm going to fish in my setup. Bait wise, I've obviously got some pellets to put in my feeder like I've spoke about, but I've got 2 different mixers so I can use that feeder in the 2 ways I spoke about. The first one is plain old Fin Perfect micros, straight out the bag, soaked in water and sort of drowned in water almost, so the pellets really swell up, they're big, they're soft, they're easy to eat, and most importantly, when I just nip them in that back square of my feeder and I cast it in, it'll hit the water, the pellets will come out, and it gives me a bit of a spread of feed, a little bit of attraction with the bait falling through the water, and then obviously I've got the option with that longer hook length of it falling through and a fish picking it up on the drop or as it settles, I can see it coming. The next pellets I've got are some Sonia Baits Sticky Method pellets. Now they allow me to use the feeder the other way. I can put a little bit more bait on, tuck my hook length in with a short hook length, and if the fish are willing to eat a pile of bait and eat off my feeder, that's the way I'll go. The only other things I've got with me is some expanders for the hook. I've got a bit of corn for the hook, and then I've got some maggots as well, which I can use in a maggot feeder, I can use as a hook bait, and I've also mixed up a little bit of crushed expander. That's just there for if my pegs may be dying on me and I can put it in to drag some fish back, or if I'm not catching anything at all, plenty of attraction. So that's me ready to start fishing. I've got a few little things to do, some hook lengths to put on my rods, that type of thing. I'll go and get that done and I'll come back to you during the match and update you on how things are going. Right, we're about an hour and 20 minutes into the match, and things have gone pretty well, to be honest. I've started off across, and that wasn't very good, really. I've caught 3 fish on that after sort of 20 minutes. Nobody's really catching on the feeder. And I could see a few fish being caught on the pole, so I've decided to drop onto my shorter line on that slope. And that's been really good. I got a really good run of 7 or 8 fish, and then it faded a bit, so I've chucked back across, got one straight away, then nothing else, and it dropped back again, caught another run of fish, and since then it's been a case of like 3, 4, 5 fish in the deep water, then chuck it further across, catch one while I rest the deeper water and come back again, and that's been working really well. So I'll catch a little run, rest my main line, chuck across, catch one there if I can before I drop back again. I think there's fish in that shallow water, but I think the feed is just wrong to catch them. It's a bit too shallow, and the feeder going in the calm and cold conditions is probably spooking them. If you could fish a waggler, you'd maybe catch a few, but obviously I'm limited to the feeder today, so you've just got to work with what you've got. Stewie's catching a few now. He started off a bit slow, but it's definitely picked up for him. I think he's probably got maybe 15 fish, I've got 23 or 24, so as a pair we're actually doing pretty well. We just need to keep it up. I'm sure now he's started catching on the pole, his peg will get better and better. If I can keep these little runs of fish coming and just keep ticking over, get my run of fish and then catch one across, rest it, come back down the middle, I'm always putting something in the net, and he's going to catch a good weight. So, oh, hold on a minute, that one's on. Yeah, so he's going to catch a good weight, and what I'm catching is going to probably be looking to top his weight up, I think. So as we go along, I'll keep trying to catch what I can. I'm not really going to change anything yet because what I'm doing is working. So I'll come back to you a little bit later on, and I'll let you know how we're getting on. Right, so there's about 2 hours of the match left, and things are going okay. Not brilliant, but I'm sort of ticking along. After the last update I gave, obviously I was getting them good runs of fish in the deep water, topped up with an odd fish across when I was resting it. Them runs seem to have really gone now. There's just an odd bite out of the blue. But there's a couple of things I've changed that have definitely made a bit of a difference. So first of all, I've started putting some of that crushed expander in that I mixed up. Just a little bit of it, mixed dry, and squeezed in my feeder loose. So when it hits the water, it'll come out, give me a bit of a cloud, bit of attraction without a lot of feed. The other thing I've changed that's definitely helped is I've changed the hair-rigged corn on the hook. And that's got me a few bites where I've cast in and my feeder's hit the bottom and my tip's gone straight round. And I put that simply down to visibility. I just think the water's quite clear, and that bit of corn falling past one's nose, it can't really resist it, and otherwise you might not have caught it, but because that bit's gone right past its nose and it stands out, a fish has had it. So I've got a few more bites on that, and they've definitely been a little bit bigger. At the minute, I think I'm just going to keep plodding along with what I'm doing, switching between my two lines, one in the deep water and one across. But one thing that's very noticeable is the fish across are a little bit bigger. So if I'm going to continue to not get many bites and I don't get another run, then I'm definitely going to have to look at maybe just targeting that island, and at least when I catch an odd fish, it's going to be an odd better fish. So for half an hour or so, I'll just plod along, catch what I can on my two lines. If it isn't happening then I'm definitely going to start looking at just concentrating towards that island. So one thing I haven't tried is starting off another line. So I could start off another line across the island, maybe only 5 or 6 foot away from my original one, but towards Stewie, who's obviously fishing the pole. By doing that, it'll give me 2 areas I can just bounce between if I am going to concentrate against the island. And that means I can just bounce between the 2 areas and keep nicking an odd fish. I think I'm probably keeping pace with all the other feeder anglers, if not slightly ahead. So things are going well in that respect. And if I can just sort of catch a few more of them better fish and pull myself away from them a bit, that'll give us a really good chance, because Stewie's catching really well at the minute. I can't see anyone who I would say has got more than him, certainly not by a lot if they have. So if I can stay ahead of the other feeder anglers, that's going to give us a great chance and put us in a brilliant position, because we're both going to end up with a decent weight. So for the time being, I'll just stick with what I'm doing. in half an hour or so, if things haven't happened, then I'll start making a change and look to concentrate on the island. But for now, I'll keep plugging away, I'll get on with it, and I'll come back to you with maybe half an hour of the match left and let you know how things are going. Right, final 20 minutes of the match now, and things are still going reasonably well. Fish have never come back onto that deeper line like I'd hoped. They never got a run. So like I spoke about earlier, I've decided to just concentrate against the island where the fish are a slightly bigger stamp. I'm not getting loads of bites, but when I get one, it's a fish that's sort of building my weight a bit quicker than them smaller ones I was catching earlier. Now I've started another line off to my right. I'm basically just bouncing between the two, catch one or two fish, move on to the other one. And it's quite obvious that although the fish are happy to be over there, the water is definitely too shallow and it's causing them to spook when you hook one. So bouncing between them two lines is allowing me to just keep ticking over and keep fish coming. And you can see when I get a bite, the rod goes round and you can often see the fish come up, bow wave and spook and come straight to the surface. Just like that, that's a prime example, exactly what I was talking about. You can see it there, I've hooked into a fish and it's come straight to the top, and that's just causing other fish in the area to spook. So by casting onto my other line then, it's allowing me to just get a bite a bit quicker than if I was sitting and waiting. And I still just keep catching odd fish, odd decent fish, and I'm up to maybe 60 odd fish now for probably £35. So things aren't going badly. Stewie's catching really well now, and I would expect him to be right up there in the match, possibly even win the match. So between the two of us, if I can just keep topping up with a few more of these better fish the last 20 minutes, I don't think we're going to be a million miles away from coming out on top of the pairs event. So 20 minutes of the match left, I'll get back on with it, finish the match off, and I'll come back to you afterwards and let you know how we've both done. Right, that is the end of the match. 20 minutes to go when I last updated you. I said I had 60 odd fish, £35. So the last 20 minutes I think I've caught another 5, finished up with 65 to 70 fish. So I thought probably £40, maybe just over that if I was lucky. My guess has been absolutely miles out. Fish have obviously been a lot bigger than I thought, and I've actually weighed in £62. Which is a brilliant day's fishing first of all, and that has been enough to be top weight out of the half of the anglers who fish the feeder. So great start to our total weight. Stewie has done brilliantly next to me. He's had £83 on the pole. That's put him third overall, third in the individual super pool. So he's won us a few quid there. And more importantly than that, that's made our total weight £145, which has been enough to win the pairs on the day. So a great result for us both. Personally, I feel like my match has gone really well. Early on, I was quick to come out with that shallow water when the fish obviously weren't there. They were sort of in the deeper water. Pole anglers were all catching. That was a really good decision, I felt. And then from then on, I've changed little things. Changing my hook bait to corn was brilliant, and putting that crushed expander in worked really well. And that's just kept me plodding away, nicking some fish through the middle when it was hard. And then I think the best decision I made was sort of the last hour into quarter hour and 10 minutes, when I was only catching an odd fish, and I decided to stick it out against the island where the fish were slightly bigger, and that's worked really well. In the last hour and a quarter, I've probably caught 16, 18 fish maybe, but a lot of them have been £1.25, £1.50, and that's really bumped my weight up, and I felt like that was a really good decision. So I've had a brilliant day's fishing. The whole lake has fished brilliantly as well. I think the average weight will probably be 50 odd pound a man if they worked it out. When you consider half of the match have fished a feeder, which on the day I think, to be honest, was totally the wrong method. I think pole fishing was definitely the way to go. So it shows you how good the lake is, how many fish are in here. If you're looking for a venue to come to in winter where you're going to be guaranteed some bites, going to get a good day's fishing and keep you busy in the cold weather, then definitely come and have a look here. They have an open match every Sunday. Contact the fishery to book on. I'll put a link below the video so you can check that. But if you want a good day's fishing, this is definitely a place to come. Thanks very much again for watching the video, and please do like and subscribe to it, and I'll see you all again next time.